美国交加被迫者 Mr. Lamberth ကိုဖိတ်ခေါ်ပါရရှင်
Okay အတက်နိုင်ဆုံးကျွန်တော်အနေနဲ့ဗမာစကားနဲ့ပြောနိုင်အောင်ကြိုးစားမယ်ကျွန်တော်ဒီ American နိုင်ငံမှာအကြီးပြင်းတာနဲ့30ကျော်ရှိပြီဆိုတော့ဗမာစကားတော့တက်ပေမဲ့အကုန်လုံးပြီးွားဆိုတာမသိတဲ့ခါခုကျွန်တော်နားထောင်တဲ့ခါကျတော့အများပိုင်းကဗမာလိုဖြစ်နေတဲ့ခါကျတော့အတက်နိုင်ဆုံးကျွန်တော်လည်းပြောနိုင်အောင်ကြိုးစားပါမယ်ဒါပေမဲ့မပြောနိုင်တဲ့ဟာရှိရဆိုတော့အင်္ဂလိပ်လိုပြောလိုက်မယ်ဒီနေ့ဒီချိန်နိုင်မျိုးပြင်ဆင်ပေးတဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်ဒီအစီအစဉ်ပေးတဲ့လူတွေကျွန်တော်အဲ့လိုဒီနေ့မိခုစကားနည်းနည်းနှုတ်ဆက်စကားပြောဖို့ဖိတ်ခေါ်ထားလို့ကျွန်တော်အများကြီးဝန်တာတယ်လို့ပြောချင်ပါတယ်ကျွန်တော်နာမည်ကတော့ Lamberth ပါအင်္ဂလိပ်နာမည်ဒါပေမဲ့ကျွန်တော်ကချင်းနာမည်ကြတော့Patrick Valeno လို့ခေါ်တယ်ကျွန်တော်ကမြန်မာပြည်ကမွေးဖွားထားတဲ့လူတစ်ယောက်ပါ1986ခုနှစ်ဒီ American နိုင်ငံကိုရောက်လာခဲ့ပြီးတော့ခု2020ဒီဇင်ဘာလကုန်မှာဒီ American စစ်တပ်ကနေပြင်ဆင်ယူထားတွားပါပြီဒီနေ့ဒီချိန်ဒီလိုမျိုးချိန်ရဖို့တော့ခက်တယ်ဒီလိုမျိုးစီစဉ်ဖို့လည်းခက်တယ်ဒီနေ့ဒီဗမာပြည်ချိန်ကြီးခါကြလဲအကုန်လုံးခက်ခဲတယ်လို့အကုန်လုံးဘာပဲဖြစ်ဒီစစ်အနာသိကိစ္စမလို့ပြည်သူလူထုတွေအကုန်လုံးဝန်နေကြေကွေးပြီးတော့ခက်ခဲများရှိဆိုကျွန်တော်နားလဲတယ်အဲဒါကြောင့်ကျွန်တော်လည်းတော်တော်ကိုချင်းစားတယ်ဘာပဲဖြစ်ဒီဘဝပြန်လွတ်ဖို့ကျွန်တော်တို့ကုန်ကျူးစားနေတယ်ဆိုတော့ဘာပဲဖြစ်I'm sure when at the next songကျွန်တော်တို့ပဲပါဝင်ဖို့ကျွန်တော်လည်းနည်းနည်းဆိုချင် I feel very humble that I've been given this opportunity today obviously to speak all of you my fellow Burmese all around the world and it is a great honor for me to be able to at least share my experience or my thought in terms of what is happening in my home country so holding event like this obviously is not easy so I greatly appreciate the organizer for coming together in this situation and to be able to have this kind of forum for our fellow Burmese people to come together so I may no longer be living in Burma obviously but this is my country of birth and so I always have longing and my heart is always there in Burma so I go back to Burma as often as I can and when given opportunity and so why are we here today to begin with where the unjust and misguided action that the military took in our home country on 1 February and so the military dictatorship typically military is supposed to be an important government agency that's supposed to be an trustable organization their role should have been maintaining peace and stability within Burma and so also to protect the citizen from external forces and enemies but obviously we all know throughout our history at least most of us who are alive today obviously we're aware that Burma has not been that way ever since 1962 military coup and so one form or another we all have been living under military dictatorship and with fear and true democracy that we can realize obviously is far reach and so it is just a challenge that for all of us having this kind of most of us who are currently living in Western democracy or any other countries we at least enjoy some sense of democracy but starting in 2015 obviously we were at least as a country the citizens of Burma starting to enjoy a little bit of a sense of what democracy is all about and while I know it was going to be a long road because of what the military did in 2008 constitution at least some sense of freedom a little bit of that here and there and so while it was somewhat thriving the abrupt decision by the military to take that kind of senseless action just because 2020 November 8 election in a humiliating way it's very unfortunate that was that the country made toward democracy obviously was interrupted and so it is a challenge for everyone right now we must fight to continue to bring this at the forefront of at our human ability and so we are doing our part I know that right now within Burma many people the young people particularly the generation Z are out there fearless and courageously taking part in CDM or anything associated with trying to topple this giant threat that is standing in front of them so it is such a shame that military has become the common enemy of the people. And so right now we are at all the people of Burma, and to include obviously within country as well as outside the country. The common enemy right now is the military and or the security forces, anyone who's wearing the military uniform as well as the police uniforms. So it's just unfortunate. It is very bad that they should be there out there to protect the people, but now they are becoming a terrorist organization, terrorizing people. Their way of life every day is now living in fear. And so while it is a challenge that regardless of what government is in place, as long as military is the institution that wants to be involved in a government affair each day, it was going to be a hard battle to overcome. But now is a time for all of us living outside within Burma to now fight for our democracy, a true democracy that is something that is yanked away from us and senselessly. And so I urge all of you to continue to maintain this unity that we all have this common enemy. So right now we're all united, regardless of our background, our race, our religion, ethnicity, it doesn't matter right now. We are all united to overcome this common enemy. So while I was serving in the US military, and even in my retirement days right now, the general public, every time they know that I serve in the military or anyone who served in the US military, they typically tell us, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service, right? And so it is something that's fitting for people who sacrifice, who out there put their life in the line in defense of this great democracy, at least for us in America, and to see public appreciation of our service. It's always heartwarming and a welcome gesture, and to be able to express or at least hear that kind of thing from the public to say, thank you for your service. But unfortunately in Burma, the military service members, obviously, they can never be thanked for their service. Because why? Because they're there to terrorize people, right? They're not necessarily out there in the street of Rangoon, Mandalay, Magui, wherever. They're not there to necessarily promote peace and stability. And they are there to basically terrorize people. And what's wrong with wanting to have a democracy free of military involvement in their lives? Let the freely elected government work on their own solution to govern. So the military is obviously acquiring all this modern equipment, military equipment from whether that be from Russia, China, or wherever. They have all this modern equipment to do what? Now they're using that against the people out there, the people that they're supposed to protect. And so it is unjust. The unjust must be stopped. And the only way to stop, obviously, is the will of the people need to be heard, and the will of the people need to continue to be at forefront, and not only within Burma, but also within the international community. And so it's a shame that you cannot give thanks or at least show them your gratitude to the Burmese soldiers to say thank you for your service. And so it is very, to me as a service member, someone who used to be in the military, it is very, it is a sad day. It's a sad time for the people when you cannot give thanks to your military service members. And so at this point in time, the suffering of people in Burma is great. I mean, day in, day out, I obviously I have connection to Burma, and I still have, I still read and see news every day. And it's all the protests that's going on in a nonviolent way. It's just heartbreaking to see the senseless, indiscriminate killing of innocent people, innocent young people protesting because they want democracy and they want military out of government. And to see them dying on the street, or even young children, even a 7-year-old being killed several days ago, senseless killing by the military. And sometimes I know evil exists in our life, even evil exists in our society, but I never thought human nature, this can be this cruel and evil, and what the Burmese military regime is currently doing. So I applaud all of you out there in the forefront of the battleground in Burma, the young people, the Gen Z people out there who are putting their life in knowing that they could easily, at one shot of a bullet from a sniper, sitting there in a cowardly position and shooting at people. And so I applaud all of you for taking part and willing to give up your life for the cause that you care so much for, and to put yourself in the line to defend. That is something that what the military should have been doing, not to be terrorizer. So I understand that there's a lot of people out there right now and even today on 27 March, there are many casualties in Burma. And so that's unnecessary casualty that at the hands of the military thugs. And so it's very unfortunate. Now, while many of us are grieving and our hearts are basically aching each day to see all those images, obviously the challenge itself is still, what can international community do? I know that many people around the world, I know a lot of lobbyist group and people who are protesting in different places, to include myself, I do participate and at least do my part in trying to at least basically let people know, the audience of our international community, to know the unjust and atrocities committed by the military. And so we are doing our part, but what is the international community doing as far as government organization? We understand it's a very difficult situation for everyone out there. And so diplomacy is difficult to come by. I know waiting is very difficult. And it's a very uncomfortable position to hear all the time now from international community that we hear you, we feel your pain, we are with you. And those kind of words are meaningful to some extent, but after a while, when you hear it over and over again, it means that the meaning of that, to show that you care, that's what the intent of that words are supposed to be. So it is a challenge. I understand that United States has applied and other countries also have applied a targeted sanction against the military thugs as well as some of the business associates. But right now, the military is entrenched so they are not necessarily going to give up their power anytime soon, at least not willingly anyway. And so I know they're misguided in their own way, and basically telling their subordinates to do the unthinkable acts of indiscriminate killing, and those kind of things are still ongoing. So unfortunately, it's the international community, all they can do is just watch for now. But I understand things takes time. I know that behind the scene, a lot of things are sometimes developing and they're doing a lot of negotiation so while it's difficult for a lot of people out there to wait for some kind of action, sometimes we have to wait a little bit before we have to take action. Otherwise, if we take action without proper planning or guidance from higher or anyone involved, things can go bad or worse than what we anticipated. So I urge all of you as much as possible to at least maintain some sense of patience for the time being. And right now, we understand we are demanding the world to recognize CRPH as legitimate government of Burma. And I know that some countries do recognize that. And as such, even in America, that's why they're allowing Dr. Sasa to be allowed to go about and presenting information to world leaders in terms of what is happening within Burma. So I urge all of you to continue to have faith and hope in CRPH. And that's right now, that's the only legitimate way for us to come together and to overcome this military dictatorship. So it's a challenge. It's not going to be easy, but I urge that you all do continue to do that. At the same time, I urge that we all do your part in a way, pressuring international community to condemn China or Russia as well to a great extent. The biggest culprit here is China, to not recognize or stop supporting Burma. And if China is out of the way, or at least they're willing to be inside of international community, I know our situation in Burma can improve and will improve. So I urge all of you to do your part, all of our Burmese citizens who are living abroad, to do our part and continue to at least demand that the government around the world recognize CRPH, as well as to condemn China for continuing to stand by Burmese military thugs. And so in closing, obviously, I would like to take this moment to recognize the unjust detention of Daw Aung San Suu Kyi and the president, U Win Myint, as well as all the elected parliament members, unjust detention of that. Those people are suffering. We have no idea what is going on right now with them. So I urge you all to continue to pray in your own way for their safety and for speedy release, and so they can continue on in doing what they have been doing in the past. And in the meantime, I would also like to take a quick moment to talk to the Burmese military service members. I know some of them may be watching. And I know that while I was serving in the military, I was told to obey a lawful order of my superior officers. And so I understand there are some lawful orders and there are some questionable orders. And right now, service members out there, the orders that you've been given by your superiors are not just, they're not lawful. They're definitely not lawful. And so you have the right to refuse those lawful orders. I understand there's consequence for everything in life, but do you want to die for the people who are abusing you yourself anyway and don't care about you? Or do you want to live by the people that support you? That's the choice that you have to make too. And so this is unjust, and you all know what unjust is when you see one. And so that being said, think carefully when you take that kind of action, shooting at the unarmed civilian for the right to protest. And that's what you should be protecting, not you yourself being the terrorizer of the people. So I urge you all to think carefully of what you do. So with that being said, may God bless Burma. May God bless all of you out there. And may God continue to bless this endeavor that we're all taking part in. Thank you all very much for your time.